Hey guys, it's Amanda. I hope you are all doing swimmingly. That is the adverb of the week because I'm from the 1950s, I guess. I have the microphone in the frame this week because I just don't know where it's supposed to go. I think it looks ugly here. I think it looks weird, but the audio is bad if it's farther away. So I'm just you know what? It's here today. Let's just deal with it. Anyway, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Selling Sunset and Girl Bossing Too Close to the Sun. So if you don't know, Selling Sunset is a Netflix docusoap that follows a group of luxury real estate agents in LA. In almost every aspect, the show flirts with the uncanny valley. From the Botox-filled faces to the aggressively empowering music, the Barbie-ish outfits, and even the dialogue seem to be the product of feeding AI the last 10 years of e-reality TV, and needless to say, I'm obsessed with it. In the early days of the pandemic, Selling Sunset was an oasis in a desert of depressing news. No sci-fi or fantasy universe could rival the level of escapism that rich white women's drama seemed to provide for me. It was a weird sort of comforting deja vu. I've never been to LA, or inside a multi-million-dollar mansion for that matter, but my years spent devouring shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills made Selling Sunset feel like home. I was used to this position, not just lying in bed with glazed over eyes, but the chronic upward tilt of my neck, gazing at those with more, constantly aspiring to be in their position. Over the past couple of years, I have realized that money doesn't buy you happiness. However, watching people with obscene amounts of it and bad taste does. And while the rich may be too far out of reach to actually eat, Selling Sunset offers us a taste, and boy is it sweet. On the surface, Selling Sunset seems as hollow as its predecessors, but it has attempted to stuff its diamond-encrusted shell with some sort of filling, a syrupy hot pink version of feminism known as girlbossery. While Gen Z has relegated girl boss to the realm of chuggy and ironic, nevertheless, Selling Sunset has persisted. So today, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the Selling Sunset cinematic universe and the well-documented perils of girl boss feminism. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank HelloFresh for sponsoring this part of the video. So if you know me in real life, you know that I have an aversion to cooking, but when I get my HelloFresh box, you wouldn't recognize me. I'm in my chef era. I feel like Remy the Rat in the best way. I recently made creamy lemon spinach ricotta ravioli, and I know that sounds so extra and complicated, but it was incredibly easy to make and tasted amazing. HelloFresh is great for me as someone who lives alone because I don't have to waste money on food that I don't need. All HelloFresh recipes come with pre-portioned ingredients to make sure that you have just the right amount for each recipe, which I also love because I quite literally don't have room for food where I live. HelloFresh also offers veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easy to stick to your goals. They're also the first carbon neutral meal kit company, and nearly all packaging is recyclable. So if you want to save money, save time, and be in your chef era, go to HelloFresh.com and use code AmandaMariana16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. That's HelloFresh.com and use code AmandaMariana16 and get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Back to Selling Sunset. I love this show. I love talking about it. I don't care how fake it is. I believe it deserves a biblical-like analysis and breakdown, and that's what I'm here to do. So let's start with season 1. We're introduced to Jason and Brett Oppenheim, twin brothers and resident short kings who own a brokerage that only employs thin blonde women and Grand Stefan. A few b-roll shots of palm trees and multi-million-dollar mansions later, we meet the agents. First is the new girl, Chrishell Strauss. Chrishell is clearly positioned to fill the girl next door archetype. She is bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and comes from the suburbs of LA, aka the Valley. Her whole thing is being the underdog, trying to fit in with the other women and proving herself as a luxury real estate agent. I really don't mind Chrishell in the first season. I think she's sweet and has an open mind. Also, a huge part of Chrishell's narrative is that she comes from poverty and was sometimes homeless growing up.
I think there's a huge stigma with growing up in poverty or, being homeless. I think these charities are important because when you treat people in a bad situation with respect, that's when they really feel uplifted and maybe they can garner some change in their life.
This definitely makes her seem more real and relatable, and most importantly, inspiring. We're told to look how far she's come. She used to be homeless, and now she's selling multi-million-dollar houses. If you hustle hard enough, you too can be like Chrishell. She's girl bossery at its finest. Anyway, if Chrishell is the girl next door, Christine is the queen bee. Christine Quinn has this very icy, intimidating look about her. She kind of just looks wicked, evil. She has very sharp features, and as the show progresses, she dresses more like a dominatrix. Off the bat, Christine is introduced as the mean girl and the ringleader of the agents. Her personality trait is being a bitch and brutally honest, yet in the first season, I found her likable because she's funny and she owns it.
You going to Chrishell's charity event?
Every day I spend my life with these bitches in the office. I mean, like, that is the charity event.
You know, I have to respect a well-crafted backhanded compliment. Christine's whole vibe actually reminds me of Sue Sylvester from Glee. She's self-absorbed, blonde, and has a penchant for camp.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered today to join Sue Sylvester and Sue Sylvester in holy matrimony. Jeannie, give me the rings.
This is insane.
Sue, do you take Sue to be your lawfully wedded spouse? I do.
I feel like Christine could be Sue's niece. And like Sue, despite her hard exterior, the producers of Selling Sunset let us know that she too has an Achilles heel. In high school, Christine was bullied and made fun of for being dorky and super tall. She walked so tall girl could run. At the start of the season, despite her bitchiness, Christine seems to have generally good intentions and is able to admit when she's wrong.
Give me one more chance to not be a fucking bitch. And I want to come here and apologize for being a total bitch.
She has a semblance of humanity that quickly fades as the show moves forward, and she fully leans into the villain role. Surprisingly, in season 1, Christine's best friend is one of the most drama-averse women on the show, Mary. Mary is one of the most kind and earnest agents, and it seems like she and Christine get along well because Mary is harmless. She isn't a threat to Christine's queen bee status and isn't very confrontational, so she's not as likely to call Christine out on her rude remarks, or at least won't make a big deal out of it. Like Chrishell, Mary comes from humble beginnings. She got pregnant at 16, and she has raised her son Austin as a single mom for the last 20-something years. And to the shock of her coworkers, she ends up getting engaged to a man closer in age to her son than herself, Romain. He's a 25-year-old French model slash baker, and the producers love to remind us that he has abs. Textbook himbo. Next up, Heather. Heather is LA personified. Smiley, sun-kissed, shallow. I honestly feel like Veronica Sawyer describing the Heathers right now. Unlike the aforementioned agents, Heather doesn't have a humble origins backstory. She wasn't poor or ugly, so she's had no character development, and it shows.
I get annoyed by Heather all the time. It's just because of the way she looks, because of the way she dresses, because of the way she speaks. It's because of the lack of wheels turning up there.
At the beginning of the first season, her main personality trait is having a long-distance relationship with her boyfriend who lives in Slovakia. She's harmless, she's filler. Next up is my queen, my favorite, Miss Maya. Maya is an Israeli-born real estate agent who splits her time between LA, where she works, and Miami, where her husband lives. I love Maya because she's so sincere. She's very honest, but she's not a bitch about it. She's not necessarily nice, but she's kind. I think it's because out of everyone, she seems to have spent the least amount of her adult life in LA. She's kind of the reality check of the show, the character who says what we're all thinking.
Since Davina left, I hired a new agent.
Is she blonde with nice cleavage?
Maya simply making objective observations seems so real because everyone else seems so fake. She knows it is not normal for all her co-workers to look like Victoria's Secret models. In the first season, Maya's main storyline is getting pregnant, and she is one of the few characters who realizes there are more important things in life than hustling. The last agent we meet in season 1 is Davina. Davina is literally and figuratively the black sheep of the group. She doesn't have blonde hair, extensions, or a boob job, and dresses in a normal office way. Basically, she's not like the other girls. Not in an annoying way, she just isn't. She's kind of awkward and seems to have a harder time doing the whole fake nice thing. She's a bit of an outsider and isn't very popular because she doesn't play the game of Selling Sunset. Okay, now that we've met the characters, let's talk about the format of the show. Each episode starts with the most stage cold open you could imagine, then cuts to the stereotypical LA B-roll that we've seen on every reality show about rich people. Rodeo Drive, luxury cars, shopping bags, and designer dogs. But the thing that makes Selling Sunset different? The music. It is well documented that this show has some of the most insane transition music known to man. I like to call it toxic positivity pop. In the first season, it's not very noticeable, but as the show progresses, the music sounds more and more like girl boss propaganda with a melody. It's yassified swag rock, it's royalty-free Lizzo, it's the musical equivalent of baseless iPad art. It's uncanny, it's genreless, it's soulless, and it makes for great meme material. Speaking of soulless, let's discuss another key element of the show, the houses. When I first started watching Selling Sunset, I was very impressed with the homes, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sharp angles, the views, the infinity pools, but as the show goes on, all the houses start to blend together and kind of all look the same. They don't look bad, like in a McMansion way, but tend to have a very sterile, modern art museum type look, which is just it's not my style. Okay, so let's get into the actual drama, the content of the show. I'm gonna break it down season by season. In season 1, the inciting incident is Chrishell, the new girl, joining the Oppenheim group. She spends most of the season trying to find her footing to prove that she deserves her spot. If Selling Sunset was the clique, Chrishell is Claire. Another major plot point is Romaine and Mary's engagement. Several of the agents were skeptical of Romaine's intentions because he's 25 and apparently penniless, and Mary is a successful older woman. In a private conversation, Chrishell asks Davina some questions about their relationship, including are they getting a prenup, and in the season finale, underlying tensions concerning this relationship boil over, and Chrishell and Christine get into a huge fight over Chrishell and Davina's talk about Mary and Romaine's engagement. Basically, Christine was mad at Chrishell for being two-faced, and Chrishell was convinced that she only asked an innocent question. As you can see, the drama in this show often devolves from legitimate concerns to arguments about semantics. But this tiff between Christine and Chrishell cements Christine as the villain of the show, and the relationship is basically irreparable from this point on. In typical Selling Sunset fashion, season 2 starts with a totally not staged team meeting that gives off first day of high school vibes. We learn that Christine has been on a world tour with her new tech bro fiance, but everyone found out about the engagement through Instagram. Maya has given birth to her son, Heather has finally dropped her long-distance boyfriend and reveals that things are getting serious with her new boo, Tarek El Moussa. The latest addition to the Oppenheim group is Amanda Smith, who is an interior designer and longtime friend of Brett, Jason, and Mary. A big plot point in season 2 is Mary and Romaine's wedding. They're keeping the guest list small, and Romaine wants to cut Davina since she insulted the temporary, not diamond engagement ring he gave Mary last season. And speaking of Davina, this season, she takes on the infamous Beverly Hills compound that the supervillain-esque owner wants to list for a whopping $75 million. It's obviously extremely overpriced, and Jason and Brett don't support her taking on the listing, but Davina does it anyway, and it's a running joke throughout the series. Several episodes of manufactured drama later, Romaine and Mary finally tie the knot in the season finale. In season 3, the wedding theme continues, but this time it's Christine's. Davina is still trying to sell the $75 million house and teams up with Christine in hopes of better luck. Maya is pregnant again, and Mary and Romaine toy with the idea of having kids. Amanda continues to be a single boss babe mom while dealing with her children's deadbeat dad, and Heather. By the end of episode 5, news of Chrishell's shocking split breaks. Her ex-husband, Justin Hartley, informed her that he was filing for divorce via text. She is shocked, confused, heartbroken, and humiliated. Mary and Amanda offer their support, while Christine and Davina play devil's advocates. The finale takes place at Christine's glamorously gothic wedding, where she wears a black dress and the guests wear white. A distraught Chrishell shows up at the ceremony, but Davina antagonizes her about the divorce and she storms out. but most of the agents are on Chrishell's side. In Big Little Lies fashion, the season ends with Chrishell back at home, staring off into the hills while sipping a glass of wine. As usual, we start season 4 with a punchy Boss Babe music track, and we're introduced to 2 new cast members, Vanessa and Emma. Vanessa is a Mexican soap opera actress who wants to become a real estate agent to honor her late sister, who was a realtor, and Emma is the CEO of her vegan food company, Emma's Empanadas. She will also never let us forget that she started investing in the stock market as a teenager and somehow saved her family from going broke. It isn't really clear how or why Vanessa got the gig at the Oppenheim Group, since it's supposed to be one of the most prestigious real estate brokerages in LA, and she has no experience, but Emma used to work for the Oppenheim Group as a realtor, and Jason wants to bring her back to replace Christine while she's on maternity leave. Oh yeah, Christine is like 9 months pregnant while walking around in sticks and chills and doing really intense yoga for some reason. There are several conspiracies in the Selling Sunset cinematic universe that try to prove she faked her pregnancy, and frankly, I wouldn't put it past her to do that. Anyway, Christine attempts to take Vanessa under her wing, while everyone else warns Vanessa that she shouldn't trust Christine. Christine also claims that Emma was dating her ex-boyfriend at the same time she was, which spirals into the overarching drama of the season. By the time Christine has her baby, no one really cares or knows since they're not speaking to her, and despite having a newborn and a husband, Christine has an ironclad commitment to proving that Emma's ex actually proposed to Emma with the ring that he previously bought for Christine. I don't know why she's so obsessed with this. Emma, of course, says that this isn't true, and no one believes Christine because they have no reason to. This season, she really starts veering into narcissist/compulsive liar territory. Heather stages an intervention with Christine in an attempt to get to the bottom of this mess, but Christine shuts down and refuses to talk to anyone. By the end of the finale, Christine is ally-less, and we have to wonder if this season is her last with the Oppenheim Group. And finally, this brings us to season 5, the most recent season of Selling Sunset that came out a few weeks ago. We start the season with a new cast member named Chelsea Lazansky. She's a self-proclaimed Black British Barbie, and I was really excited to see a lovely dark-skinned Black woman on the show, but it became very clear that her role was to become Christine's henchwoman, since basically no other girls from the Oppenheim Group would speak to her. Also, it was kind of weird that Chelsea had to prove herself to get into the Oppenheim Group when all the other new cast members sort of just popped up. It was awkward because Chelsea was Christine's ally and Christine was her way into the Oppenheim Group, but nobody in the office even likes Christine, and it seemed like she didn't even want to be there. In other news, Chrishell and Jason reveal they're dating at the start of the season, but break up by the end because Jason doesn't want kids. Emma details her misadventures on the celebrity dating app Raya and goes on a few totally not staged dates with a hot real estate developer who has his own mezcal brand. Heather finally gets hitched, Mary gets a promotion and freezes her eggs, Amanda gets full custody of her children, and Vanessa's new boyfriend gives her a promise ring in the Oppenheim office for some reason. Also, it seems like she's going to move to London to be with him, which Davina is suspiciously supportive of. Maya reveals that she's leaving LA to be with her family in Miami full time, and at the end of the season, Emma tells Mary, the new office manager, that Christine tried to bribe a client to stop working with Emma and do business with her instead. Jason says Christine has crossed the line, and by the end of the finale, it looks like her fate as an Oppenheim agent is sealed. And that's what you missed on Glee. Although Selling Sunset was never solely about real estate, from season 1 to season 5, the show devolves from a series about women who work in real estate to a show that uses luxury real estate as a backdrop for interpersonal dramas to play out. Also, as the show progresses, there is an uncanny veneer that starts to become more noticeable. The outfits get more elaborate, and sometimes you realize the women aren't even wearing their own clothes. Their faces get stiffer with Botox and filler. Christine's lips look comical by season 4. The glowy, bright, airbrushed filter that the show is known for even seems like it gets turned up a notch each season. As it progresses, Selling Sunset has started to become a caricature of itself, as evidenced by a scene in season 5 in which Amanda is designing a girl boss themed store. This leads me to the final part of the video, discussing the alleged overarching theme of Selling Sunset: female empowerment, boss babes making money moves. I hate to be a buzzkill, and I know people can find these women genuinely inspiring, but it's important to critically consume our media. We can have our cake and analyze it too. Selling Sunset has a dogged commitment to painting the women on the show as girl bosses, but the hollow feminist rhetoric inevitably falls flat because they're not even their own bosses. Jason and Brett are. Though these women are smart and competent, it's clear that a huge factor in the hiring process comes down to looks. The Oppenheim brothers aren't just selling luxury homes, they're selling a fantasy that appeals to the male gaze, and a conventionally attractive woman is a part of the package. And while it might seem obvious that playing into patriarchal standards of beauty that revolve around thinness, Eurocentricity, and youthfulness isn't necessarily empowering, according to the laws of girl bossery, making a 6-figure commission from selling a house is. So be it. While beauty is currency, it expires, and there's a whole industry built around trying to preserve it before it sours. Mining power from beauty is like building a house on sand. It will work for a certain amount of time and for certain people, but it's far from a foundation that all women can benefit from. In her essay titled "In the Name of Beauty," Tressie McMillan Cottom put it like this: beauty isn't actually what you look like. Beauty is the preferences that reproduce the existing social order. She continues, Black women have worked hard to write a counter-narrative of our worth in a global system where beauty is the only legitimate capital allowed women without legal, political, and economic challenge. Beauty is not good capital. It compounds the oppression of gender. It constrains those who identify as women against their will. It costs money and demands money. It colonizes, it hurts, it is painful, it can never be fully satisfied. It is not useful for human flourishing. Beauty is, like all capital, merely valuable. And this precisely is what the glittery girl bossery of Selling Sunset fails to consider. While the girl boss had a good run in the 2010s, her time is coming to a close. Like I mentioned earlier, she's been relegated to the realm of irony by Gen Z, and I'm pretty sure there's no coming back. But I think it's a good place for her to be. We can view the girl boss from the safe distance that our skepticism affords us, close enough to be entertained and far away enough to not get caught up in her vacuous vortex. The moral of the story is I will continue to consume Selling Sunset, pure entertainment, but I think it's a positive thing that we've gotten to the point. I don't know, maybe the people, whatever, if you're watching this, you've probably gotten to the point of being able to watch a show like this, but, not necessarily be influenced by it in a meaningful way, in that, you're not convinced that girl bossery is what's gonna make my life amazing or happy, or is, a great feminist practice, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on Selling Sunset and girl bossery below. Yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Bye!